vulnerable leadership. It is the potent value exchange of authentic expression without the fear of what the other person thinks or what they will do.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Championship Leadership Podcast. And today we got Pauline Nguyen with us. Lives in Australia, but is currently on a big speaking tour. She's an international speaker in DC, I believe, currently, right?
Yes.
Awesome. So, well, thank you for joining us. Yeah, I appreciate it. Sounds like you're busy.
Nate, thank you. Thank you very much for having me. I want to take a moment to also acknowledge you and your story. I love so much listening to the lyrics of your intro on all your podcasts. Cool, very original and incredibly informative. Well done.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Well, let's hop into a championship leadership. What comes to mind for you? What does that mean to you when you hear that?
Champion leadership. Two things: championship and then leadership.
Yep.
Have you read a book, Nate, called The Three Mind Revolution?
No, I have not.
It's a really powerful book. It's written by a friend of mine. His name is David Chiem, and he is the CEO and founder of a very progressive childcare chain. It's a publicly listed company called Mind Champs. And so the premise of Mind Champs is, you know how, I guess since the 80s, we as adults who are in this this industry of professional development, personal development, consistent growth and evolution, but we kind of discover it after we've had so many crises in life, and we kind of discover there's this something more, this essence that's missing, and it could be spirituality, it could be more of your evolution, but we learn that at a later stage in life because we've experienced all the hardships. Whereas Mind Champ says, why can't we teach that stuff to the kids while they're at a young age,
I love that.
Toddlers in childcare and whatnot. So he's written a plethora of books, but this one in particular, called The Three Mind Revolution, he writes with neuroscientist Professor Alan Schneider. And so it explains that as we all prepare for this very new world, this upgrade of a collective consciousness, it is the ability to cope with change that is going to determine success or failure. And with the Three Mind Revolution, it speaks to three distinct minds. The first mind is the champion mind. The second mind is the learning mind. And the third one is the creative mind. And so it is in these silos that he teaches the children of childcare age, when they're toddlers, so that they don't have to suffer later. But for the purpose of your question, it's clear to me also that you have the champion mind. I have been told by Professor Snyder, as well as David Chiem, who's a very good friend of mine. He wins all these awards in Singapore consistently, best CEO and best entrepreneur. And I often joke, it's like, you want to give that award to someone else already?
Right.
And he's like, no. And so it's clear to me that you have the champion mind, and a lot of your podcast guests have the champion mind as well. So what are some aspects of championship and the champion mind? According to Chiem and David Schneider, Peter Schneider, who's done a whole lot of research, champions are people who don't hesitate to express their individuality. They find whatever unique strengths they have within themselves, and then they use those strengths to their advantage. Here's the thing: they are not afraid to be disliked.
Oh, yeah.
And so they express these unique strengths, even if it means going against conventional wisdom or popular wisdom, even if it makes them stand out, even if it exposes them to criticism and ridicule. And so they have this confidence to express their vision, regardless of what other people think. And so one of the most important characteristics when talking about championship or the champion mind is the confidence to trust in his or her own vision.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it becomes a way of thinking, it becomes a way of life, right? And so he writes that with the champion mind, it's equal parts emotional intelligence. Self-mastery has a lot to do with it. The consistent learner, the equal parts communication skills. You have to
Mm.
be an effective communicator.
Yeah.
Equal parts self-awareness, constant eyes in, not eyes out. And then, of course,
Yeah.
self-confidence. One of the other things about championship and the champion mind is that we abhor, absolutely abhor mediocrity and ordinary. True or not true?
Yeah. Very true.
You know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so it's this consistent, constant decision to I want to be the best I can so that I can make my mark in this world with everything that I do.
Mhm.
And so we really transcend this conventional wisdom. And if the old way doesn't work, I'm going to find a new way.
Yeah.
I'm going to find a new way, but also to have my signature on it, that I'm doing something very different. And in order to do so, we are consistent learners. The life we live are the lessons that we teach, right? But we also know that I'm not afraid of adversity either, because from adversity, I get to learn more. But don't you dare put me in a box
Yeah.
because I don't fit in a box. So
Absolutely.
that's the first part, right?
Yeah.
Championship. And then, of course, there's leadership. Leadership is different again. And what do leaders do? They go first.
Hmm.
They go first.
Yep.
What do visionaries do? They see things very differently. And so with leadership, when I speak to leadership, or when I travel the world and give keynotes on leadership, leadership for me must be also about vulnerable leadership. Vulnerable leadership doesn't mean, crying all over the place and manipulating people with emotions. To be a vulnerable leader, first you must have competence. You cannot have that position unless you have the competence. So what is it to be a vulnerable leader? Vulnerable leadership. It is the potent value exchange of authentic expression without the fear of what the other person thinks or what they will do. And so it is to say, the ability to say, for example, hey, we're heading into uncertain territory, and uncertainty is going to happen at a much faster rate than ever before. But I hold this position of leadership because I have the skills and I have the competence. Will you trust me, even though we don't know what is ahead yet?
Mm.
And so that's the competence to say, to be vulnerable in that respect. But leadership is also a series of skill sets, right? We mentioned it before, the skill set of self-mastery, self-leadership, communication skills, understanding the weapons of influence, understanding that we lead from a state of power, not force, to be powerful because we have all these skill sets, to come from a place of inspiration, not just have to crack the whip for motivation, to understand that we come from a place of deliberate calm, deliberate fearlessness, resilience, grit, courage, with compassion, and I think very importantly, from a place of unshakability, because we've practiced so much self-mastery and emotional mastery. But more importantly, when we become very spiritual leaders, coming from a place of in spirit and inspired to do our best work, it's understanding that we see things from a higher level of mind, not from a low vibration place. And so it's the understanding that how many perspectives can I hold? Not only must I be a leader of solutions, I must also be a leader of sanity.
Yeah.
And so leadership is not about being in charge as such, but leadership for me is about taking care of those in my charge. And this is a
Yeah.
very, very different space, right? And it's not maintaining the status quo, because that's management. Leaders go
Yeah.
first.
Yeah. Well, talking about awards, I mean, I think you probably just got the award. We're almost 400 episodes in for the best answer to that question. So good job.
It's what I
Yeah.
speak about. It's my
Yeah.
specialty.
Well, I know. I mean, that's what you do. So that's good.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can tell you're good at it. I'm interested. I know we talked just very briefly before we hit record about, a little bit about what you do and what you speak about. And you talked about spiritual entrepreneurship. And I think I've been on a bit of a spiritual journey myself this year. Beginning in January, I did some ayahuasca and really kind of delved deep into that world and kind of really looking inward, as I think you were talking about a little
How
bit.
was your experience of
It
Aya?
was frightening for sure.
Sure.
The first night was crippling. And then it got better from there. We did 4 nights in a row. We went to this place called Rhythmia. So yeah, I was it was intense, I guess I would say, very intense, and but good, you know. I think it was good. I'm still learning. And then yeah, I've just kind of continued to, I think that opened the trap for me, and I've dove headfirst into you know, did some inner child healing recently, and
Yes,
so I'm in that world definitely, and definitely looking at, you know, what that is for me, and
yes.
taking a look at my soul, and tapping into the spiritual side of myself, definitely. So, and I'm an entrepreneur as well, so yeah, it's interesting to hear. And so I'd like to maybe hear just a little bit more about your story and how you got to where you are today to be traveling the world talking about that.
Um, uh, I have
And
so many stories as
I
my
bet.
stories evolve. Which part of the story would you like to hear, Nate? But I'd
Well,
love to ask first. You know, please do give yourself plenty of time for integration
mm,
from the ayahuasca experience.
definitely learn that
Uh,
afterwards. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I believe that, and I speak from direct experience. And I only teach from direct experience.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you know, we're talking shit, right?
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
I've experienced San Pedro. I've experienced ayahuasca. I believe very, very strongly that everything you need is already within you.
Hmm.
I don't believe that you need several experiences of ayahuasca,
Yeah.
given that we need time for integration. And so the ayahuasca plant itself is a parasitic plant, right?
Hmm.
It is its nature is to strangle everything that it is around,
Yeah.
and so we have to see it from a very cautious frame of mind. And you know, I know so many people who are ayahuasca junkies, and they don't
Yeah.
come out
Yeah.
very well. They don't come out
Yeah.
very well. Everything you need is already within you. I
I'm glad
highly,
you said that. I wish I would have heard someone tell me that beforehand,
yeah.
but no, yeah, it was a good experience, and I think you're right. Like there
Well, you've
are, I
already
do know a
experienced
number
it,
of
so you
people.
have to
Yeah,
reframe.
I do, and I do know a number of people that, yeah, continue to go back. So,
Yes, it's unnecessary, but also, you know, it can be, wow, if you're looking for something, there's other ways to find it
hmm,
that is not
yeah,
going to, you know,
yeah,
mess you up, so to speak. You know,
yeah.
and then the shamans who would be able to and have the right of passage to administer ayahuasca or facilitate it, they too have to go through very strenuous initiation
Hmm.
processes, and not all people have done so. And you
Yeah,
know, ayahuasca
yeah,
is now done, you know, in garages and in apartments, and
yeah,
the
right.
sacredness has been taken away, and very dangerous, very so
Yeah,
dangerous.
yeah.
But I do appreciate inner child work and shadow work and all of that, which I think is so incredibly necessary.
Hmm.
And so anyway, back to your question.
Yeah.
Which part of the story would you like to hear?
Well, I don't know. I mean, just whatever part feels present for you, as far as to, yeah, how do you get to the place where you're traveling the world talking about spiritual entrepreneurship?
So, I guess if I were to start from the beginning, I am a boat person. My family and I escaped. My father built a boat after the Vietnam War, and he smuggled our family out to sea. We were part of the very first wave of Vietnamese who escaped the communist regime after the
Mhm.
war. We spent 9 days out at sea and ended up in Thailand, where we spent a very difficult year in a refugee camp there. We were only meant to stay a few months, but we ended up there for a whole year, and my mother gave birth to my brother Luke there. My brother Luke is a very famous chef and travels the world and does all these
Oh,
cooking shows,
really?
and he's got quite the profile. So we ended up in Thailand, and my father suffered terribly from post-traumatic stress. It was a very, very violent upbringing, lots of beatings, incredible mental, emotional, physical abuse. And I ran away from home at the age of 16, 17. I
Hmm.
put myself through university. I spent many years hiding from my father, literally afraid for my life, and fended for myself and ended up working in some of the best restaurants in Sydney. I now own Red Lantern. It's the most awarded Vietnamese restaurant in the world. We've had it for 20 years now in what is a very tough, fickle, saturated, competitive industry. We're still around because we
Yeah.
simply have more grit than anyone else we know. But look, growing up with all the trauma that was passed down to me, unresolved, unhealed trauma has a way of passing down to the next generation. And so, in my work as a amateur human being, I suffered a lot. I suffered a
Yeah.
lot, not understanding why I was the way I was, and which then really led me to ask a lot of questions. There's got to be more to life than this. And I was a party girl. I traveled and I did a whole lot of naughty stuff, which calls one to ask even more deep questions. You know, how did
Mhm.
I end up here? How did I end up so messed up? And so rather than blaming my past or blaming my father, I started to heal. I traveled and built relationships with healers, teachers, NLP teachers, spiritual healers, mentors, coaches, and I was able to have enough self-understanding to write my first book. And we had open Red Lantern. My first book is called Secrets of the Red Lantern. And it's a very dark and personal memoir, which I disguised as a cookbook so people would buy it. It worked a treat, Nate. I won Debut
Yeah.
Writer of the Year. It became an international bestseller, completely changed the trajectory of my life. And from that book, my father and I also healed from it. It's
Mm.
very much about ending the cycle of intergenerational trauma. That's what the
Mhm.
book is really about, disguised as a cookbook. And I befriended so many people from around the world who wrote to me saying, even though it's a different war and different nationality, it's the same universal story, you know? And
Yeah.
so from that, I was pushed to speak on stage and do world tours and book tours by my publishers at the time. And I said to them, are you going to give me any media training at all? Because I'm sick and tired of going on stage and getting all emotional and crying. I don't want to be this way. And I always have a hunger for mastery. And so on two parts, is like the audience does not deserve to see me like this. And also they do not deserve to see me like this.
Hmm.
And then I, because my publishers weren't going to give me the media training, I sought it out myself. And so I've learned from the masters in terms of script writing, in terms of wordsmithing, in terms of you know, uh, non-verbals on stage, stage mastery, stagecraft. And then I just got better and better with my work. And I wrote my second book, The Way of the Spiritual Entrepreneur, The 7 Secrets to Becoming Fearless, Stress-Free, and Unshakable in Business and in Life. That was released in 2017, 10 years after the first book.
Yeah.
And I won Best Small Business and Entrepreneurship Book of the Year in the
Oh,
year
you
of
got
its
plenty of
release.
awards already.
And it's the hunger for
Love
mastery,
it.
right?
Yeah.
And so from that, and you know, I want to also express to your listeners that for me, spirituality has nothing to do with religion. It has to do with consciousness. It has to do with designing your life deliberately to consistently live in states of inspiration and being spirited, so that we can do our best work. I believe that it is religion that needs spirituality. Spirituality does not need religion. Spirituality is about self-mastery, self-leadership. And then, of course, there's so much science that backs it. So it is very much a physics that has yet to be explained. And
Yeah.
so was that enough to tell you where I am
Yeah.
today? So
Oh,
I travel,
absolutely.
I coach, I teach, I mentor, I write, and from the combination of the books I've read and what I teach, as well as the speakership mastery, I am part of an agency called Ode Management, who represent the top 15 non-celebrity speakers in the world. So it's a constant sharpening of my sword and the evolution of my craft. And that's how I am here today.
Very cool. Well, that's who and what you are, but or what you're doing. Why? Why do you do what you do?
Because I've walked the walk. I've experienced what it is like to be that very old version of what entrepreneurship is. You know, the real materialist kind, winning above all else, money, money, money. You know, man eats dog. Not only experiencing that for myself, but also time and time again for my clients who, because they are living that life, they're very unwell. They
Yeah.
experience dis-ease of the mind, dis-ease of the body. And so the spirituality that I teach is very much about snatching our power back, not giving it away to some old paradigm and dogma. It's to understand we have the opportunity now to become the grandest version of the greatest vision we hold of ourselves. And it's about coming back to our truth, coming back to our truth, coming back to our truth. And this is when we were talking about, ayahuasca before. When you live your truth, it takes no effort. And you don't need any external validation or any external tool or substance to get you to feel the way you need to feel or do the things you need to do. It is only when you're living a lie. That's why you're tired. That's why you're fed up. That's why you age. It's only when you're living someone else's dream and not your dream, and you feel stuck. And you're not stuck, you're just stuck at a developmental stage, and you need teachers and mentors to get you unstuck in the next developmental stage. And so when we consistently do this work, it becomes almost a deliciousness and a hunger for evolution and progress versus a lack.
Yeah.
There's so much juiciness about this, and it's very much also about the somatic work, about the body. It's time we take spirituality out of the clouds and put it back in our body, scanning our body. What is my baseline? Why am I sore here? What are my organs doing? You know, we have particular pains and stories and past and stresses in our bodies, and then so that's the semantic work. You know, we'll understand that it has to do with, you know, a lot of talk therapy, but talk therapy alone takes too long. How about then we also address what it feels like and how it is stored in our body, and we can release that through body work, through breath work, through EFT, through movement, and not to mention, we can't forget the somatic, the soulmatic work. And so I am shaman. I practice shamanistic practices. What is it? So nature work, sound work. So Nate, do you love accessing nature? Do you go out into nature?
Yeah, I do. I run a fair amount, and I love it. Yeah.
And do you love sound and music and voice and all of that? You know.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, that was the ayahuasca that like I'd never heard. I don't know if I've ever heard sound like I did
Yeah.
while in ceremony. Yeah.
Yes. Well, that is the two main parts of shamanic practices: nature's medicine and sound medicine,
Yeah.
and connected with very, very healing. And then magic happens when we combine the semantic with the somatic and the soulmatic. And you know, what is it? We get to live our lives experiencing mysticism regularly, but in states of joy, peacefulness, and happiness, which are our birthright.
Yeah. Well, what is some of the impact that you're making or the feedback that you're getting from people as you go out and you speak and you're tying? Yeah. What is maybe the tie in for you in your message from the spirituality that we've been talking a lot about to the entrepreneurship?
Sure. Well, there's plenty of testimonials on my website, both for my speaking as well as for what I teach and how I do it. I have a very particular style. It's otherwise known as no bullshit. And so, what are some of the results? We have from all walks of life to understand. First of all, the feedback that I get a lot is, Pauline, you've given us permission to be very comfortable in this human body. So many people think that this whole spirituality stuff is so woo-woo and we're reaching for something, this spirit, this soul, and then we forget about the human body. They don't understand that it is not us as humans trying to reach this something that's intangible. It's actually the soul here to have the human experience. And so, Pauline, you've given us permission to have a human experience. We don't need to renounce. I can experience the deliciousness of great food, of incredible wine, of sensual sexual pleasures, of feeling beautiful fabric on my skin. So it's very this somatic experience. We are here as souls to have this human experience. And then when we understand that, man, every day I wish to live a life that causes my soul to dance inside my body. And then when the soul and the human body finally understand each other, the soul just says to the human body, thanks for allowing me to evolve. Thanks so much for allowing me to hug my children, call up that guy, ask for that pay rise, because the soul wouldn't be able to do all those things without the human body, right?
Yeah,
right. So right. That's what it's all about, to give permission to understand that I can experience what it fully means to be human. A lot of my clients also come to me when they are sick and they've tried everything. They always say, I've tried everything. And the first thing I say is, I am not your healer. Please understand that. I don't want to be your healer, but man, can I teach you how to heal yourself? And if you follow the work that I teach, you will learn how to heal yourself. And so we're talking from things like healing from cancer, healing from organ failure, healing from skin disorders, a whole lot of stuff. But what comes first must be permission. Permission must come first. Other ways to live your life with more joy and freedom and peacefulness, inner peace. And what happens as well, they stay in my orbit because all of a sudden, holy shit, this stuff works. My life is full of synchronicities. It's full of gifts and blessings. I end up being such an incredible magnet because I've gotten rid of all the dissonance that doesn't work. And so there's a lot of play and a lot of different experiences and different results from the people who have worked with me across the years. And I've been speaking now. I've been a professional speaker now for almost 15 years.
Wow. I love it. You obviously love it as well.
It's what I was born to do.
Yeah. As we start to wrap this up, if there's one or two things that we could give the listener to help move their life forward today, if they were to apply it right now today, what might that be on top of everything else I think we've already talked about?
Do my work. I've got a whole lot of stuff coming up, but I think on a daily basis, to ask yourself these three questions. These are very, very powerful questions. What do I need to do to feel the way I want to feel? What do I need to do to feel the way I want to feel? Second question, especially for entrepreneurs, who do I need in my orbit to help me to get to where I want to go faster? But in order to be attractive, for people to come and help you, you need to be attractive with the words you speak, the energy that you emit, the way you think, the actions you take. And the third question would be, what would love do? What would love do? Those are very, and of course, there's a whole lot of work that goes behind those questions, but they're very fundamentally, I guess, deceptively simple questions. What do I need to do to feel the way I want to feel? Who do I need in my orbit to help me to get to where I want to go faster? And what would love do? Yeah,
powerful. Love it. Beautiful. Yeah. So hopefully, as you're listening, you write those down and actually take some time to really maybe ponder those a bit and get a journal out and write. So what's the best way for the listener to find out more about what you're doing, your work, your books, just everything that you got going on?
My website, paulinenguyen.com.au. I am getting a US website done up as well. I have students from all across the world. And I have a very powerful, my signature course, the Spiritual Entrepreneur Accelerator. You get me live for 3 months. That commences in August, or another cycle commences in August.
Okay.
Many lives have changed through that course. And, you know, my books, my meditations are on there. I've also launched a new product to add to the ecosystem, Tiger Pearl Chai, again, because I'm a serial entrepreneur and I was sick and tired of drinking crappy chai. So I've made my own. I've made
I
my own.
love it.
And we've
course.
only recently launched, and we are in the process of raising capital for the next round because we're launching in the US.
Okay.
Tiger Pearl with triple R, tigerpearl.com.
Okay. We'll check that out. We'll get that linked up for everybody as well. So, well, thank you so much, Pauline. I really appreciate it. I know you're busy, and thanks for the impact that you're making out there. For the listeners, stay right here. Don't go anywhere. If you've enjoyed Pauline, you'll definitely enjoy our next guest as well. So thanks again. Have a great day, Pauline.
Thank you, Nate. The joy was mine. Blessings.